Hello. This is an unusual way to celebrate 9/11. Usually this is a time when we all come together for an event in our history that brought us all together. The virus prevents us from doing this as one, but we thought we would share with you this moment and this ceremony. I do reflect on the time that in 9/11 we did feel as one. And now our country is torn apart. I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to remember, of course, the people from Franklin who sadly died on 9/11. John Collins, Stephen Joseph, Ganesh K. Ladkat, Ganesha O. Richards, Jeffrey Robinson, Cheryl L. Rosenbaum. Those and hundreds more lost their lives there and in the Pentagon on 9/11, in the day that we must always remember. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
My name is Pavella Sproul. I am the Public Safety Director for the Township of Franklin. Today we remember all of those that lost their lives on September 11th, 2001, especially 6 that were born and raised in the Township of Franklin. Firefighter John Collins, Stephen Joseph, Ganesh Ladkat, Ganesha Rogers Richards, Cheryl Rosner Rosenbaum, and Jeffrey Robinson. We must also take a moment to remember all of the first responders who perished on that day and in the years following due to 9/11 illnesses. Their bravery, honor, and sacrifice will never be forgotten. 2020 has been a very trying year. Please take a moment to reflect on the events of September 11th and be reminded that we are truly one nation with core goals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Remember that our similarities far outweigh our differences, and together as one, we can accomplish anything and everything. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm Freeholder Director SHANEL Robinson. Thank you for inviting me here today as I call Franklin Township my home. As we remember on this somber anniversary, 19 years ago, that we lost the lives of many. 19 years ago, throughout America, we came together in a collective promise to never forget the brutal attacks of September 11th. It is vital that we as a nation gather on this date, even if the COVID pandemic means we do it virtually. We commemorate the great sacrifices made since 9/11. These attacks were not just on tall buildings, the aviation industry, or even those we are here to remember today. The attacks were on the United States of America, on every one of us as Americans. We are here today not just to remember, but also to honor the lives of the thousands more on that day at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and on Flight 93. We remember and honor the first responders who risked their lives on 9/11 and those who spent years clearing the site, who have passed away since due to illness contracted at Ground Zero. But we are also here to remember how our country came together due to these attacks, how we agreed to put aside our differences for a time to comfort and console, to rally, to rebuild, to stand up, and to strengthen. We need to remember that Americans can do anything, no matter how huge an undertaking, as long as we do it together. We will never forget.
Hi, I'm Brian Levine. I'm a freeholder here in Somerset County, soon to be County Commissioner. And I'm proud to be the former mayor and current freeholder for a community that cares enough to pay tribute to the victims and cares enough to emphatically call to mind those police, firefighters, first aid workers, emergency service professionals, and volunteers who gave their time, their health, their very lives so others may endure. I was mayor here when we dedicated this poignant memorial, and I will be with you forevermore. Today, right here, right now, we must determine with these words and our actions how we go forward as a people. Do we just remember as we must, or continue to grow and learn as we should? We all remember our whereabouts on that fateful day. Let us just for a moment place ourselves in the skin of those caught in the towers or the plane above Pennsylvania. We do not imagine, but we must for a moment imagine what they were going through, and then go home tonight and hug someone you love. We must seek from the rubble and ashes of evil and destruction the rising phoenix of hope and righteousness. Extreme circumstances were driven home to us by that terrible tragedy of the trapped victims of 9/11, either on the phone to their colleagues or just saying to themselves. And they said, thank you. Thank you for their family. Thank you to the American ideal, which they did have. And as a society, we must feel, say, and demonstrate our heartfelt thank you to our public safety colleagues. All of you have endured on a course of community giving. And as the residents of Franklin Township of Somerset County of the United States of America, we take heed to make our nation the best it can be. And when there are flaws, we can mend them. We have our memorial here to stand for all time. It was an effort born of many individuals. We can certainly feel and touch it, but the beauty is in the unseen. Helen Keller said, the best and most beautiful things in life cannot be seen, not touched, but are felt in the heart. We can never waver in our admiration and honor of our emergency service colleagues. No one can see, nor hear, nor feel the product that you emergency service workers provide. nor the product that the victims, be they civilians or emergency service personnel, bestow. But you will feel it in your heart, as will our community, as will your family, as will the fortunate few whose lives you touched and saved. To me, your contributions, your rewards, your children, family, and loved ones who see you as a role model make you vastly wealthier than any pecuniary reward. So we must all remember the victims, remember the rescuers, remember what we have learned, and that this is important in life. Let us all collectively and individually go forward and never forget to remember.
Hi, I'm Joe Danielson. I'm your state assemblyman representing you in the 17th Legislative District. 222 years ago, Franklin was incorporated as one of our state's initial group of 104 townships under action by the New Jersey legislature. Now, as a proud son of our community, I have the honor of representing you in the state legislature. A community in its diverse companies, recreational centers, and houses of worship, Franklin has most of its citizens from diverse communities. Our citizens truly are the fabric of America, bringing together our uniqueness of cultures, ideas, and ideals, which enhance our daily life and make us the best that we can be. From the Blackwell's Mill Canal House, built in the 1860s, to Rockingham State Historic Site, where Washington wrote his farewell address to the Revolutionary Army in the fall of 1783, to Tulip Wood, designed in 1892 on Hamilton Street. Our township roots are deep with history. We are also a community who welcomes all seeking opportunities of a better life, making us multicultural, accepting, and proud of each citizen's heritage. We are truly the melting pot of New Jersey. From Hendrick Fisher, who represented Somerset County in the New Jersey Colonial Assembly, to Errol Williams, the 1971 National League Rookie of the Year, Franklin Township continues to excel in fostering a strong educational base and community lifestyle and values that produces Broadway producers, political leaders, academic and business leaders, Olympians, professional sport coaches, movie actors, radio hosts, and so many more. I am proud of my community, its citizens, and remain humbled and honored to represent you since 2015 in our state legislature. Knowing that while we endure this pandemic together and mourn for those citizens lost and their families, together we will be stronger for the ultimate struggle we have faced together in these challenging times. Let it be known that we also did not abandon our civic responsibility to meet the challenge before us. By testing thousands of residents for COVID-19, all at no cost to the citizens, we will continue to do so and put this COVID-19 pandemic behind us. In the words of Benjamin Franklin, remember, it takes many good deeds to build a good reputation and only one bad deed to lose it. Our community is grounded in good deeds daily because we embrace each other and believe in Franklin first. Thank you.
Hi, I'm RAJIV PRASAD, former Councilman at Large and Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Wendy, Bob, Warnlocker, and the Council for inviting me to say a few words about our 9/11 memorial. We lost 6 Franklinites that fateful day who did not come home. Their families needed closure. So we discussed this memorial, and Bob Warnlocker, who was the Special Projects Director then, applied for an I-beam to the Port Authority. Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno and the Port Authority Director came and gave us this I-beam. This was a symbolic return of the 6 Franklinites we lost as they perished next to it. Bobby Rosner, owner of Nature's Way, was a friend, and she lost her daughter there and was a recluse for 10 years till then. Bob LaCourte, the Republican chairman, and I were the bipartisan committee that decided on this location of the memorial. Bob Warnlocker and the Public Works Director, Carl Hauk, did a great job designing and building this memorial with leftover funds from the Veterans Memorial. Trap Rock Quarry donated the rocks for the memorial. Their pictures on the plates gave them presents. The memorial was inaugurated, and the families came and appreciated it. It gave them a sense of closure. Some even remarked that they could feel the presence of their departed loved ones here. The township lived up to its pledge, gone but not forgotten. May we always remember the sacrifice of the innocent victims at the hands of terrorism. Our memorial services are supported by our interfaith community, first responders, firefighters, police, and first aid squads. I thank them for it. May we always remember our lost Franklinites on this day, and also remember the ones lost to COVID. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rabbi Eli Garfinkel of Temple Bethel in Somerset, New Jersey. 19 years ago, murderers came from afar and slew 3,000 innocent lives for no reason other than hatred. The righteous response of our firefighters, our police officers, our first responders, and our military was one of heroism, dedication, and a love of our country. 19 weeks ago, a virus came from afar and has thus far slain 183,000 Americans. The virus came for no reason at all. Viruses don't have reasons. The righteous response of our nurses, our doctors, orderlies, researchers, plasma donors, and all the essential workers who allow the rest of us to survive in quarantine, that response is also one of heroism, dedication, and a love of our country. 19 years ago, we came together as Americans after the tragedy, and we showed that we can love each other despite our differences. Our collective memory of that day will never cease, but God has mercifully allowed us to heal. 19 weeks ago, many of us began to realize what Black people have known for centuries, that we are not healed, that all is not well in America. We discovered we had two viruses to fight, the coronavirus on the one hand, and the spiritual virus of racism on the other. In more ways than one, we are sick and we need help. 19 years ago, our nation changed forever. We were surrounded by huge oceans, and we merrily thought that no one would ever strike the homeland. We were wrong, and we will never be the same again. We learned that liberty is something we took for granted, and we thank God for the heroes who allowed us to heal and rebuild. 19 weeks ago, our nation changed forever again. We learned the hard way that all human beings are connected, that an accident on the other side of the world can have fatal consequences here in our neighborhoods. We learned that getting close to other people is a luxury, something we took for granted. 19 years ago, we learned the hard way from the 19th chapter of Leviticus, which tells us to love each other as we love ourselves. 19 weeks ago, we learned the same thing. The scientists will find a cure for the coronavirus, and we will rebuild our economy. But we must remember to include love in the rebuilding plans. Let us pray that hope and love prove to be just as contagious as any virus can be. God bless our heroes.
My name is SYED RIZWI. I'm the IMAM at Masjid Ali Muslim Foundation here in Somerset, New Jersey. We're gathered here today to pay tribute and commemorate the tragedy that took place September 11, 2001, and remember the heroes that gave their lives and sacrificed for the betterment of the society. Those tragedies, those tragic events still are vividly in our minds, as we cannot forget the terrorist attacks that brought the entire nation together. The entire world was shook by it, specifically our nation, and more specifically the tri-state area and New York and New Jersey. As many of those brothers and sisters who were the first responders who took place in responding and taking care and bringing people out of under the debris and the rubble, there were many of them are our local brothers and sisters. So we remember them, pay tribute to their great sacrifice, putting themselves in harm's way in order to save lives. And that's the true courage that should be inculcated into our masses, and we should understand as leaders of houses of worship who are also trying to bring our communities together on the basis of standing up against oppression, against injustice. Today, in this month also in our Islamic calendar, Muslim faith, we go through this first month, which is called Muharram, in which we commemorate the sacrifice of the grandson of the Holy Prophet, who stood up against oppression and tyranny, along with his 72 companions. And that number really gave courage. And still many people are influenced by that movement which took place 14 centuries ago. In this 2020, we are also going through a very unprecedented time where we're hit with this COVID-19 pandemic, which has brought many of our lives to a halt. It has brought many of us to start rebuilding. But at the same time, there are new and unique heroes that have emerged. There were always heroes, but they've emerged with the new face and new identity. And those are, again, the first responders, the medical professionals, the doctors and the nurses who are fighting this disease firsthand in order to make sure that they're able to give life to those who are suffering. So we salute all of those first responders who took to the streets and who presented their lives, gave this sacrifice in 9/11, and we salute all of those heroes who are still continuously working so that we're able to breathe, so we're able to go about our works, and we're not putting our way into harm's way while they are. So thank you very much for giving me this time and opportunity. It's a yearly event and I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
I am KOTTAHACCHI, representing New Jersey Buddhist Temple in Franklin. It is a great honor to participate in the memorial service for the victims of 9/11 and all those patriotic Americans. September 11, 2001 is one of the worst days in the history of US, but it brought best out in all of us. It unified the nation and showed the charitable instincts in the people, reminded of what we stood for. Let us remember those who lost their lives in this great tragedy, as well as heroes who gave their lives to save the others. May this Patriot Day be one of reflection and prayer for the families of the fallen. In the Buddhist way, we say, may all beings be well and happy. Thank you.
Warm greetings, Franklin Township. I am Pastor George Montanari, pastor of Middlebush Reformed Church. We gather once more on this solemn date in remembrance of the victims and the heroes of 9/11. in sympathy with those who grieve the loss of loved ones from that day and its aftermath. We gather in gratitude for the survivors, many of whom have overcome incredible challenges in their recovery. And we gather in solidarity with those who still bear the scars of that day. In many ways, it is hard to believe that nearly 2 decades have passed. Each anniversary date seems to bring us back to where we were and what we were doing on that otherwise clear and sunny September morning, which became wrapped in the clouds of smoke and of fear and eventually of war. As with the Oklahoma City bombing 6 years previously, we emerged from the terror of that day thinking it would be impossible to be witness to anything worse. And yet, as the 168 lives lost in the Oklahoma City bombing became eclipsed by the nearly 3,000 lost on 9/11, a number itself soon eclipsed by the hundreds of thousands of deaths in the wars and continued terrorist attacks following, we have seen that it could get worse. 2 decades ago, we could not have imagined a global pandemic that would cause 850,000 deaths, 185,000 of those in our own nation, 138 of those in our own beloved township. We would not have imagined the ever-growing list of names of those whose deaths and injuries are rooted in systemic racism, nor the challenges to say and to mean that Black lives matter. We would not have imagined the gun violence in our schools and houses of worship, the crises of addiction that have taken too many lives and torn apart too many others. And the list goes on. Our spirits are fatigued with sadness. Our minds are numbed at the overwhelming count. And our hearts are broken over those devastating losses to our families, our communities, and our nation. We wonder, have we learned anything in these intervening years of these last 2 decades? 2 decades ago, America stood firmly united. Why are we now so determined to be divided as a nation? Why do we make that choice? Some people have taken to speaking of existential threats. What is clear to me is that hate and selfishness are the existential threats. Hate leads to lives being lost. Selfishness leads to the fracturing of our communities. If the memory of 9/11 has any meaning, then surely it is a renewed call to stand against hate and to stand up for the other. It is a renewed call to the kind of sacrifices that build everyone up in caring and selfless compassion. It is a renewed call to live out the highest ideals of our various faith traditions, and at the very least, to step into that common place of decency and kindness. I take heart and courage from the words of the prophet Micah, who calls us to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with God. From the words of Jesus, who calls us to be peacemakers and therefore to be known as children of God. And from the Apostle Paul, who calls us to bear one another's burdens and so to fulfill the law of love. May God give us all courage to live in such a way.